Welcome to Michigan Reimagined, a Spotlight podcast. And here's your host, Chris Buck.
So decades ago, businesses fled downtowns and really evolved in the suburbs. But today we're seeing more businesses valuing being back in the thick of it all. Here to give us a story of a company relocating into a downtown setting is the president of financial technology of East Lansing, Miss Sara Frank-Hepfer. Welcome, Sara.
Well, thank you, Chris. I must say, though, I'm only a VP.
Your email signature says president.
Oh, man. I'm going to have to check that.
Right. You know, it was funny because I watched, there is a video out there that kind of tells a little bit of the story we're about to get deeper in on. And I was wondering about that because there are a couple of more senior folks that were highlighted in that. But you're clearly the face of the firm, in my opinion. And so I want to give you that nod and maybe the nudge towards the presidency.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. The firm has been around a while, and they've actually targeted some of us that don't quite look to be as gray-haired to represent in the community. Because when it comes to financial matters, honestly, we usually think of older white men with gray hair.
Right.
And that is not necessarily what we all are. And we definitely don't want that to be our clientele.
Sure.
So that was part of the idea of moving downtown East Lansing is how can we be more present, more relevant? How can we be more part of things? Because I feel like there's a little bit of a disconnect. Often people will think about financials as, I don't want to think about that. I'm going to have to go some scary place.
Right.
I don't know what that looks like.
Hostile territory.
Yeah. And so how do you make it?
I don't deserve to be here. This is like highfalutin finance. Right.
I don't have enough money to be here.
Right.
That's very much not the case. Everybody starts somewhere. And so how can you make it more approachable? How can we be something that's just an everyday part of life?
Awesome. Well, let's talk about financial technology as a company. So I think you've been around for a while. Like, when was the company founded and kind of where had you historically been located?
Sure. The company was founded in 1980.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So It's got, this November it'll be 42 years, which is kind of incredible for a local firm.
Right.
I mean, a company that's always been in East Lansing. They started out, I think, on Northwinds Drive.
Okay.
And then they were in 1500 Abbott for, 30 years.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, they moved in there in July of 1990, and then we moved during the pandemic out in August of 20. So a good long time in the 1500 Abbott Road.
Right. And I think that's really important to tell that tale. I had a boss a long time ago who would only go to restaurants that had been around for 50 or more years, or at least that was his kind of staple of, you know, any business that's been around for a long period of time clearly knows what they do, has the trust of their clients, isn't, dealt in scandal or, thievery or any of those kinds of things that the core, longevity tends to speak towards core values and principle driven leadership. Right. And so in a financial institution, financial planning, then we'll get into exactly all the services that you provide. It seems like that's even, more so a requirement of yours to be around for a while.
Oh, very much so. But I think that it felt like we were a little bit out in the suburbs before. Right. It was by Reno's East, which is, it's fine and it's fabulous. And a lot of people knew the building because of the ear, nose, and throat doctor. But oh my
now I know exactly where you were.
Yeah. Everybody's like, oh, that's space.
I know where you are.
Yeah. But to move downtown is just so much more fun.
Right on. Right.
Yeah.
Well, we'll talk about that.
Okay.
But so what exactly do you do? Financial technology. What types of services do you provide?
Well, we do investments. We do insurance, including health insurance. We are a 401k provider, soup to nuts. And by that, I mean that we can advise, we can do the record keeping, we can be a third-party administrator. We're also a 338 fiduciary, which is kind of a higher level of fiduciary. We're using a special scoring system called FI 360 to really mitigate a plan sponsor's risk.
Got it. Okay. I was using the 358. So the 360. Okay. Got it. Okay. But that's good stuff, right? So you're not simply financial planners for people who want to move their investments into some portfolio that you manage, because you do that.
Yeah, we do that
for
also.
individuals. But you also have it sounds like a big commercial or corporate component as your client base.
So we run about 70 401k plans in the area. We really love to work with local small businesses. It's fabulous for a business to be able to call a 401k provider in the area.
Right. Right.
I need a loan. Okay. Why don't you sign this paperwork? We'll meet with you. We'll talk about it. We'll figure that out.
Come downtown.
Yeah.
Grab a snack on your way in. And we're right in the hub of it all. Okay. So so small business, who else are your kind of your typical clients? I mean, again, if people are listening, what kind of people should prick up their ears and say, I've been thinking about making a change and it sounds like they're a good fit?
Well, ideally, we love to work with people who care about their families and the people that they touch. So small business owners are often the ones that we start out with because they're trying to take care of their future, the company, the family, and their employees. So we'll work with small business owners. We work with employees. I personally work with a lot of widows or divorcees, and that might just be because I'm a woman and I unfortunately have had a divorce, but you come out a lot stronger for it. But that's a different kind of viewpoint, I think, than a lot of planners.
Right. Okay. So is this a really competitive space, or does the fact that you do individual and company stuff make you a little bit more unique? I would imagine that these small business owners maybe put their corporate needs in front of you, but then independently put their personal needs, right? Is that kind of unique for you, or is it still a pretty competitive space?
I think it's pretty competitive, but not when you have a firm that's doing the third-party administrating and the record keeping. So there are a lot of places around town where you can get an advisor and they will advise on your 401k, but they wouldn't necessarily be able to do the other pieces with the 338 fiduciary overlay.
Got it. Okay. And so I'm certainly comprehensive. Now let's talk about the space. And I said in the intro that, and I think there's certainly statistics that talk about the suburbs created from a commercial standpoint were created as people were leaving the downtowns. The downtowns started getting, back in the day, I guess, dirty and crowded and expensive and all of that. And so people said, let's move closer to where people are living. So we cut down the commutes and get out into the suburbs. And now we're spinning back around and you're seeing more companies investing in downtowns because it's cooler and it's hipper, and there's a more modern way that I think a lot of municipalities are developing their spaces, and there's a vibe to be had. And it sounds like that was a big driver for you. Talk about where you are now. Let's start there.
Sure. We took over most of the fourth floor of what's called University Place, but most people actually think of it as the East Lansing Marriott.
Okay.
So technically that is two properties. There is the hotel tower and then there's the business tower, and we're in the business tower.
Got it. Okay.
But it's fabulous. We get a lot of pushback from clients in the beginning because they think, oh my gosh, it's East Lansing. It's going to be impossible to park. That's their biggest fear.
Okay.
And we get that, but we actually validate parking. So people can come in, they park under the Marriott, and there is an elevator right there that takes them right up to our suite. It's so easy. And then once they've been there, they're like, oh, that was fabulous. And as a bonus, we validate for 4 hours. So I try to suggest people come to me right before lunch or maybe in the afternoon so they can go and enjoy one of the great, spots that's downtown East Lansing.
Well, I mean, the last 4 years, downtown East Lansing has gone from, not to be sarcastic, but from like 1975 to 2025, maybe. I mean, it's really modernized. If you haven't been lately, come take a look. There's tall buildings and a lot of residential and new restaurants and breweries and coffee shops and all of that stuff. There's just a newfound energy that I think is really necessary for a Big Ten school to compete in a variety of ways. And the city of East Lansing is to be applauded for kind of turning the page and saying, no, we need to, maybe in some manner of speaking, catch up. If you've ever been to Madison or Columbus, which again are much larger cities, but Big Ten towns that are capitals, city of East Lansing has really done itself a service, in my opinion. I know there are some naysayers who harken back to the good old days, but
some people just don't like a change in skyline, and it's all just building up an improvement. And a lot of the old businesses are still there.
Right.
I am on a board for the city of East Lansing, the Downtown Development Board. And we've got Ray, who owns Curious Bookstore. He's there. He's still active. So I don't want anybody to think that East Lansing's lost its character. It has not. It is still there, but it's growing and improving all the time.
That's great. And I think that the parking thing, I'm glad that you kind of led with that, because not only is it inclement weather. Michigan can certainly have inclement weather. The puzzle of I don't want to go into downtown East Lansing because parking is a pain. But once you learn that there's a parking ramp affiliated with the building, that you're going to be able to get in there for free and jump on an climate controlled.
Yeah.
It's all very non-elemental. You don't have to park in another lot and walk 3 blocks to get to your financial planning
Exactly.
firm.
It's super easy. And I think people just need to know the entrance to the parking ramp is off MAC. There you go.
There you go. There's your plug.
Easy peasy.
Get there once and you'll know forever.
Exactly.
So that's great. Now, you mentioned, 4 hours, and I mean, that was a little tongue in cheek, but that's helpful, right?
Goodness.
So come down and plan it, arrive. If you have an appointment with me, expand it and do your East Lansing shopping or dining or
I want everything to be pleasant. So you know what? Bring your friend and they can sit out in the lobby and wait for you if you want to keep your financial stuff, your information private. But
or go to Blue Owl or Foster's and wait for me.
Have a beverage
exactly.
afterwards.
Yep. That's great. Okay. And then, so the employees, was there much pushback from the employees to be moving from a kind of a suburban surface street parking, all that kind of stuff to getting into a downtown?
We had, I think, 2 people who were kind of curmudgeonly about it. There are always going to be people who don't love change, and so be it. But again, they're fine with it now. They understand where they park. It's okay.
Right.
They don't like now we don't have to scrape off our cars, and they do like that part.
Sure.
Yeah.
I suspect that people that are curmudgeonly like that are going to be curmudgeonly anyway.
Exactly.
Wasn't the move that caused that.
Exactly.
Curmudgeonness?
Curmudgeonliness. I don't know.
Okay, so that's worked out. And then do you find that has it been a strategy to get new clients? Or is it just a more pleasing setting for your existing clients to come into? I'm just curious, by being downtown, have you had anyone say, I was looking for a place and now that you're right here, it's easy to find you? Or maybe it's too new to know. Yeah,
I don't know that we could say that quite yet, partially because we're still in a pandemic.
Right.
So, the foot traffic just isn't what it would normally be.
Right.
But we do have a lot of clients who are coming down and they'll give us a little bit of an argument about the first time coming down. Oh, East Lansing. But then once they've been in once, they're like, oh, well, how about I come back next month or in 2 months and we'll follow up on that. They are really opening up to it. Plus the space itself. When we moved, we were able to design the suite.
I was going to talk about that. Yes. Sometimes when you're in a place for so long, you kind of expand and you don't realize how... I'm not going to say I never was in your old space, so sometimes furniture ages out or carpets and all that kind of stuff. But you also, as you expand, you end up just kind of taking over what's available and living in what is given to you, as opposed to, it sounds like this was what I think they call like a white box, where you can kind of come in and design the space the way you want it.
Exactly. And, I get to pat myself on the back. I got to help with all the furniture and all the picking out colors. And we really kind of tried to approach it from a color psychology point of view. So what would be calm but welcoming, warm colors? Because I think, again, going back to the psychology of financial, a lot of people think black, white, red. These very stark, maybe there's some green. What do we do to make it seem like this is not an other, but an everyday part of life? So we're kind of went with like a warm wheat, and there's a cornflower blue, and just really trying to make it seem more hospitable and approachable.
Right. And we talked about, I guess, the move and how your employees kind of dealt with that. But how about from a macro standpoint? Well, how many people do you have in your firm?
Oh, I believe we're at 14 right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And from a working condition standpoint, outside of being downtown, the physical space, do you feel a little more either prideful or more functional or productive?
Yes. Everybody has huge windows. So that's really nice. And we've been able to kind of segment it where we have 3 of the 4 walls on that tower. We actually have part of the 4th, but we have an insurance wing, we have advisor wing, and then we have a 401k wing. So it was really neat to be able to kind of segment that out. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's great. And collaboration spaces and little conference rooms, I would imagine.
A big conference room and a little conference room and a fancy kitchen. Thank you, DBI.
There you go. Good. So, I read somewhere or even heard on the video on the website about a concierge service that you personally said, we like to view our service, as a concierge type service. What does that exactly mean to you?
Well, that's a great question. I believe that we do a little bit of everything soup to nuts. So I will often work with a person when they're setting up a college savings plan for their grandchild, and then maybe their child changes jobs and we do a 401k rollover. And then maybe there's an inheritance to deal with. Or unfortunately, sometimes it's the other end. I have a client that I spoke with last week. She had terminal cancer, and we just did a lot of work to get everything in line and ready. And then she passed away Saturday morning. So very sad news. But again, I've already been in touch with her children, and we're going to try to make this as easy as possible because it's emotional.
Right.
Honestly, money is always emotional, but add to it the passing of a loved one. I think that being there, going to the service, really talking to the family and remembering the person is a whole different level of care.
Right on. Well, Good for you. And, that is true. I mean, getting back to the very beginning of this conversation, you talked about financial planning institutions were intimidating and, a little nerve-wracking for the client to come in and do I deserve to be here? And, they're just going to kind of slam me into some pigeonhole and, label me for, I'm a person with this net worth, and they're just going to put me in some algorithm. And
I think some places do.
Right.
That definitely happens. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm a little bit of a rebel, and I'm not going to do anything the way somebody else tells me I should. I got to figure it out for myself. So I don't use a lot of models for people. I really want to talk to each individual person and figure out what their needs and goals are.
Got it. Well, that sounds great. So is there anything else that your firm is doing or anything else that excites you about the direction you're all headed at this point?
Oh, gracious. One thing that I want to do is we would really like to bring on some younger advisors.
Okay.
So we have so much breadth of knowledge in our office, but I believe I'm the youngest advisor, and that's not cool.
Well, 27. I mean, that's not.
Oh, you're very kind. Very, very kind. So, we would love to have some younger advisors join the team.
Okay.
Yeah.
So people in finance and that kind of stuff, right?
Yep, exactly. Okay. So Series 7, if they have that, wonderful. If they're a certified financial planner like me, fabulous, but they don't have to be yet. So we're willing to help, but we'd love to get some more people on the team.
And how can people learn more about you?
Oh, gracious. Our website's a great way. That is financialtecfortech.com. So no H on tech. We have a Facebook page, which is Financial Technology, Inc. We're on LinkedIn, and that's actually my page. So it would be Sara Frank-Hepfer, VP, on LinkedIn. You can email us, you can call us. So our phone number is 517-351-8600.
Fantastic. Well, we've been speaking to the Vice President of Financial Technology, Sara Frank-Hepfer, about their move to downtown East Lansing. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Chris.